Joining me today is Joe Kenney, who's running for the New Hampshire Executive Council in District 1. I want to talk a little bit about sort of the major things that the council does. We talked a little bit about that in the last segment. But, you know, if you were to take your typical day as a councilor, what would it look like?
My typical day could be a breakfast in Claremont, a lunch in Littleton, and dinner in Pittsburgh. It's about 3.5 hours from Milton to Pittsburgh on that side of my district, so 108 towns and 4 cities. You have to have a lot of outreach. So typically, I'll get up in the morning, I'll schedule 3 or 4 things in a region of my district. It could be visiting a town hall, it could be visiting a constituent, it could be visiting a road project, or it could be visiting someone who just pointed out something that I need to go out and respond to. A good example of that more recently was up north. There was a select person at the town of Dummer who was complaining about the East Side River Road, that it was being neglected, and DOT had promised that they were going to resurface the road this year. Well, I jumped in and found out that they weren't going to resurface it, and then we were able to get additional funding to make sure that road is going to be resurfaced. So I took a site visit up there and walked around and then reported back to Concord on the need of that particular road. Now, there are a lot of roads in the state of New Hampshire, and not all of them are going to get repaired or resurfaced or in some cases maintained as well as we'd like to. But in some cases, if you've seen something neglected for years, you want to try to get on it right away.
Well, there are a lot of roads in New Hampshire, but District 1 and the Executive Council, I think, has most of the roads in New Hampshire. Well, it's the biggest district.
Yes, it has also some of the worst roads in New Hampshire as well. There's a lot of dirt roads, there's a lot of roads that, you know, that we're not quite sure who owns them. But yeah, that's one of my responsibilities. One of the things too is I like taking my commissioners out of Concord. You know, we just had Jeff Myers of Health and Human Services out to the Glen Cliff home up in Benton, which is a part of the mental health system here in New Hampshire. And we also went to the county nursing home in Grafton, and then we went up to Friendship House up in Bethlehem. But getting the commissioners out, whether it's the DOT commissioner, Vicki Sheehan, or some of the other commissioners with regards to George Kapadas, we visit a lot of the job fairs. Some of them have been at the local community colleges in Claremont, for instance, where you get the chance to see what vendors are out there and what potential job opportunities. So I typically see myself as being an extremely proactive executive counselor who wants to know what's going on the ground. Obviously, there's only so much of me. I do the best I can, but usually I do pretty well. And building those relationships, continuing those relationships. I think earlier on when I first got to the seat, it was like, well, you're not Ray Burton. Right, Why should you talk to me? And I'm like, well, someone's got to fill his seat, and we better do it quickly. And I'm the guy who served 14 years in the state legislature, who has relationships in state government. I've been out for a couple of years, but I think I can jump back in the saddle and move forward. So with that, I've gained a lot of understanding of the issues, the personalities, and how to help communities solve their problems as well.
Are the department heads and the commissioners responsive in general to the Executive Council?
They are, because they get appointed by us. So if I'm walking up to you and I say, you know, I need you to help out Mrs. Smith with regards to her Medicaid issue, and I call up Jeff Myers, the Commissioner of Health and Human Services, he's going to be responsive to me, because the next time he comes up for reappointment, and if he hasn't taken care of Mrs. Smith, I'm probably not going to take care of him. So there's an understanding is that I build bridges and relationships with my commissioners, but they also know just as much as they're responsible to the governor, they're responsible to the council as well. So it's really a fabulous system that we have in New Hampshire. There's only 2 other states that have an executive council. It's Massachusetts and Minnesota. Very limited in scope. We always kiddingly say that New Hampshire has the most powerful executive council in the country. But it allows us to co-administrate the state of New Hampshire, have our commissioners at the agency levels be very responsive to us as we do constituent work for the citizens of New Hampshire.
Is it a good check and balance?
Absolutely is. You know, the governor knows that just when I get beyond the legislature and the bill passes, okay, when the contracts start coming in, oh, I got that darn, New Hampshire council that I have to deal with, and I better be nice to them. So it's generally a very collegial environment. 90% of what I do is really nonpartisan. There's only a little, part of it that's partisan. We're always looking out for the best interests of the citizens of New Hampshire, seeing what their needs are and how we can, basically meet the essential needs of the state.
And let me stop there. When we return, we're going to continue our conversation focusing on the future needs of the state and what may come before the council. So please stay with us.